Hello, my name is Tom Buttke, and we're here again for a program, Heroes from Home, where we interview veterans. And today we have Tyler Smazal. Thank you, first of all, for your service, Tyler. You want to tell us a little bit about your family?
Yeah, so I'm born and raised in Marshfield. My wife Sierra was more of the Hewitt clan, but so basically both Marshfield residents our whole lives. We have two kids, Hunter and Haven Smazal. They go to school at Nasonville. So yeah, we're both locals, always been, except for my time in the service. Own a couple businesses in town. My wife owns two Herbalife nutrition clubs, and of course I have the War Room Museum on Central.
What branch of the service were you in, Tyler?
So I served in the Army from 2006 to 2016. I was an MP then, and I'd had a 6-year vacation, we'll say, and now I'm actually in the Navy Reserves, so starting a new adventure there. So yeah, that's the two branches. So a little unique, I guess, being kind of having two branches of service under my belt. So.
And again, thank you for what you do. What did you all do in the service? Enlighten us a little bit.
So when I was an MP in the Army, most times I was a garrison MP. So really think of it like a local Marshfield law enforcement. Performed normal duties on bases as a civilian law enforcement would, from doing normal traffic stops to, domestics at houses, what have you. So for a little while I was in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. That's where I did my basic and AIT, and then spent some time in two different locations in California. One of them was a really small post that wasn't a garrison assignment. It was pretty neat. There is Motco is the name of the post, but there's no on-post housing. Actually, like 90% of the base is all underground. So they bring in nuclear weapons mostly, but really any type of ammunition that's getting decommissioned. And that's where it gets taken apart, salvaged, and shipped out for reuse from there. So there we were mostly security, worked a lot of guard shacks and patrolled. Anybody coming in and off that post got checked. It didn't matter who it was, but it was a weird scenario because it's like I said, it was pretty desolate. Like we show up and we're like, what are we doing here? There's nothing here. There's like 2 or 3 buildings, and then we start finding out, because obviously they're not going to tell us much till we get there, that a lot of it was all underground. So kind of made you feel like that X-Files, like sci-fi movie or something.
You mentioned a name, and me not being a military guy, garrison assignment.
Yeah.
Explain that, please.
So really what it just means is it's an on-post job, so garrison duty, you're on a base.
Okay.
So in the technical world, there's garrison MPs, and then there's combat MPs, or the military police that would actually go to a war zone, Iraq, Afghanistan. Okay. But even then, you can be a garrison MP where most of your duties are performed on a base in Afghanistan, and not out on patrol,
okay,
in the territories.
So what are some of your fondest memories? Now, apparently you had some fond memories because now you're going back in to serve a different a branch or whatever, but what were some of the things that you really enjoyed? Yeah,
so you hear a lot of vets talk about the brotherhood, the people that you meet, experiences, just a lot of that stuff. You meet people from all over the state, sometimes all over the country. Unfortunately, as time goes on, you lose those, especially I feel like maybe more so nowadays. It's a lot easier to stay in touch with people. I think to the World War II, Korean War vet, Vietnam vet guys, they had to physically travel or write letters, or phone calls. Well, now we can talk to everybody, right now on Facebook or whatever. But I think you lose that personal touch, so you don't stay in touch quite as much.
And you must have as you should, a lot of pride in serving the country and what you all do.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's really that sense of belonging to something, bigger than the norm, and the leadership aspect. I mean, you can have leadership in your professional business life, but it's just different in the military. I think even in today's world, there's more of a genuine respect, for the elders, so to speak.
Some of the other people I interviewed here talked about I'm trying to think of the name offhand, the discipline that you learn as a young person, and it's good for a lot of young people.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so I was actually called a late bloomer. I was going to join right out of high school, but I didn't. It took me, I think it was about 2 years to seal the deal. So, in a military life, really, I was already one of the older ones. I was only 20, pushing 21, but you were of the older guys joining. Or a lot of them are fresh out of high school, or they're there doing their split op program. So they might be a senior at that time in high school. So definitely at that time already, I was kind of one of the older guys there. But it was a little unique even when I joined. It was kind of that recession time period. There was guys there in their 30s, going to basic training that were, like district managers at, big retail spaces and lost their jobs. So it was just all different walks of life. But so even if I think you may think you're disciplined, but you still learn other types of discipline.
And the other thing is being in shape. To get in shape. I mean, you're in pretty peak shape when you're doing that.
Yeah.
So we talked about the positive. What about some of the worst things?
Yeah, I mean, on the same side of that discipline thing, right? I mean, it can be hard. Again, even somebody that thinks you're maybe a little bit more mature, it's a change for everybody. From the simple things of just being able to simply do what you want whenever you want to do it. We take that for granted now. Obviously military life, you have your duties for the day to get done first, and it doesn't matter if you get them done early or not because you're not leaving until you're released. And sometimes depending on maybe who you serve under, it can be a little bit more of a hard person than the other individual, and reasons that you need a day off might not be acceptable to him. So it's not just, hey, I got a family thing today, I got to have off. Too bad. Yeah,
and when you're away from your loved ones, that's got to be tough too. Everybody misses that part of it, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
So you mentioned a little bit, but what were some of the places you went? You want to expand on that just a little bit?
Yeah, so we kind of already talked about Buttke, but to kind of wrap up there, what was kind of unique about that place is you got this, we'll say, nuclear facility that's bringing in nuclear weapons and disarming and decommissioning them. And then just nestled a few little miles south is California's largest chemical plant, and just north of that is their biggest petroleum plant. So it's like, let's put all the bad stuff right in one area, so if it goes, it all goes. And actually, I think you can Google Buttke, California, and I believe early 1900s, the place actually did blow up. And in the mountain range that is it's nestled between the ocean and a mountain range, which makes sense. You can still see like impact craters in the sides of the mountains where they had an issue back in the day. But that was a neat experience. That was one of my first duty stations after basic and AIT. After that, actually just went south in California, kind of King City area, and there is Fort Hunter Liggett, which that was really a garrison duty, so it was normal police officer type work. But was kind of neat for the movie buffs is We Were Soldiers with Mel Gibson. That's where that movie was, the entire movie was filmed. So we'll be honest, I found myself probably doing less police work, because I really liked that movie and driving around and trying to find filming locations. And then after that, I came home for a little while, and then actually got an opportunity to go to Italy, northern Italy, for a while, and that was a really neat assignment. It was supposed to be a garrison duty again, but at the time, the 101st Airborne, that's really where they were stationed, and when they would come home for some RR time from the war zones, they'd release and find themselves getting in a lot of trouble. And also at the time, a lot of the officers that were there were receiving death threats. So we kind of became more personal 24/7 security. So it was just neat getting to meet a lot of, colonels, full board colonels or generals that normally you would avoid. Your fearful respect. But getting to meet some of those guys and spend personal time was, a pretty unique experience.
Do you have communication with some of the people that you were in with yet?
So actually, over the last couple of years, it's become very little, which is a little unfortunate. A lot of them went on to careers, with the military, so they stayed pretty busy. A lot of them, I think, seen some pretty rough times with where their service took them. Because actually the unit I left, say I retired, my original military career actually became a combat support unit. And I stayed pretty close with them because a lot of them started doing tours. Some of them that I know did 2 or 3. And again, I think they just kind of lost, some of that communication when they got home.
Then my next question, I think I know the answer. Do you recommend the military for people?
For sure. So, I get asked it, especially at the museum once in a while when parents bring in their younger kids and, they find out that it's veteran owned. So usually the conversations start going in that direction. But I think a lot of veterans, you always get asked, what are you going to do if your kids want to join? And I always even tell my kids now, they're only 8, going to be 9 here in less than 30 days. But if you have that aspiration, and I know we always talk about education, no matter what you do, but if you have the aspiration to join the military, take education serious now, and test high on those test scores so that you have all the opportunities, at your disposal. And if there's that person that ever's looking for advice, it's like, as a prior and now current service member again, it's like, just try to choose something that has a career path would be my advice.
Okay. You talked about the museum, and tell us about the museum, where it is, and how it got started, and if you would, please.
Yeah, no, certainly. So I got to give a little credit to the originator, Brett, the gentleman that started the collection. He started collecting about 47 years ago, and then ran it as a museum down in Portage, Wisconsin for about 14 years. And he always wanted to serve, but he had some medical issues to where he couldn't. So I always kind of tell him seriously that he served his country with that museum, maybe more so than in some ways in actual serving. So anyways, he just wanted to get out and move on, so I heard it was for sale. So my wife and I had a pretty quick conversation about it, actually, and decided to purchase the items and bring it up here and continue it as a museum. That's really our hope, is to keep everything together. And we've been getting more Marshfield area men and women bringing their things in now, so we're growing it more locally. But that's kind of the start of it, and our mission really is, as budget allows in the future, that we get enough donations that hopefully we can give back to area vets. And a lot of times vets don't want to ask for help,
Right.
and they definitely don't want to go to the bigger organizations. So I feel if we can facilitate a more behind closed doors way for them to just pay the heat bill, that's really what we hope to do.
And that's 3rd and Central, Tyler?
Yeah, so it's 3rd and Central. The locals always know it as I think it was
Back Porch.
Or Dads and Lads, even way back before.
Okay,
then.
if you go beyond that, Lemley's
Yeah.
clothing store in my era. But I've been in there, and both times I've been in there, there's more in there, and it's very impressive. You're covering how many different wars?
Yeah.
When do you go back? How far back?
We now go back to Civil War. We had a guy bring in some Civil War stuff, but it's heavily on the World War II side. But World War I's been growing quite a bit, which is really pretty neat. And again, with local guys, so that's pretty amazing in my opinion. And then we cover Korea, Vietnam, Desert Storm. And it's not just military stuff either, so we try to get some interest in, not everybody wants to see the military stuff. So we kind of have what we call home front, just items that mom and the children would have had to deal with during the 40s, which has been interesting because a lot of us can kind of compare to the shortages that, we've been dealing with and are still dealing with.
I think some too, Tyler. We talked about a lot of military guys, especially ones that were in the wars, don't want to talk about it too much.
Yeah.
I'll just bet that they will be interested in going to see this display, and some of them open up.
Yeah.
That's like the honor flight.
For sure.
People that didn't talk about it, when they get together with their comrades and see what you all have in there, they open up. And now you do sell some things in there to try to make a go of it so you can keep that open. You want to mention some of that?
Yeah, I will. But if I can back up, I
Sure.
will. So what you mentioned, I mean, you couldn't be more right, and it's really pretty cool. So we actually have it happen all the time. A vet will come in, and it's usually the same comment. I've been driving by, I know you're here, and I finally just took the time to stop in. And, because of being at the museum, you're exposed to it, but also being a vet, and anytime, like even yourself, you deal with vets, so you can read the ones that aren't going to talk much. So more often now, just let them kind of walk around and let them open up on their own. They almost always start talking. And sometimes I think they're honestly testing me, because then they'll come back and they'll bring some of their stuff. But then what's really cool, we have a few guys, but we have one local guy that sticks out to me. He's in every couple of weeks, at least 2 times a month, and every time he comes in, it's another daughter or a grandson. And some of them I've actually heard, especially the daughter's dad will kind of go off on his own, and the daughter will say, it's just really cool that this is here because I've never heard my dad tell me this stuff before.
And you sort of touched on this too with the museum. You want to make enough money to pay for the lights and so on and so forth. Yeah. But to me, I take that as honoring vets,
right.
And that's a big part of it. I mean, it's just so impressive on what you have. So
we tell people it's really what we're proud of there. It's the vets, but it's not just them, it's their families.
Right.
It's a museum at the end of the day, and it's all a bunch of stuff, but it's, the legacy of, again, we go back to the Civil War, so it's hundreds of years of families that were carrying on their loved one's story. That's why it's important. But yeah, so to go back to your last question, one of the ways we try to raise money is we have our apparel, our normal, you're wearing one, I'm wearing one, tourist type items for individuals to buy. And pretty much anything you could think of there is what we got: T-shirts, hats, hoodies, coffee mugs, that sort of thing. And recently we've been able to pair with Warbird Coffee brand, which I'm wearing their hat. But it's a really cool organization too. I'll just give you the short story. They started in the United Kingdom, actually. The male originator of it is currently a Royal Air Force pilot, and his wife's parents live in Rapids. So now they started the Warbird Coffee USA line. So, still pretty local. But what's really neat is they give back their proceeds, $100,000 a year, they give back to Warbird organizations. So like EAA, people restoring aircraft.
Sure.
And then they only sell on their online store or with organizations like myself. So it's, you're not going to find it in the coffee store or at the Pick and Save. So it's really pretty neat, that partnership. Veterans giving back to veterans.
And you do offer people to come in groups or whatever, and
Yep.
tours. If you want to talk about that.
Yeah, so obviously we welcome people off the street, just a random visit. We're always there right now, Thursday through Saturday. We have regular hours of 10 to 4. But I always just tell people when they come, check us out on Facebook, because we try to post, an educational post every day. Like whatever happened today in World War II. And then we always post our hours, because occasionally we'll be open more days or later to try to, get people in. But yeah, we welcome, educational groups, from the school districts to tech schools, colleges. UW Stevens Point, it's kind of strange, they're not local, but I've been getting all kinds of different reach out from organizations there. And then we've really tried to even market to people like adult field trips,
Sure.
Nelson Jamison, is just an example. If you're looking for things for your employees to do. So, all walks of life.
I hate to put you on the spot
Yeah.
here now, but do you have a telephone number that people can reach you?
Yeah, I do.
Hey.
Yeah, no, that's fine. It's a business too. So,
Yeah.
If you're interested there, it's 715-486-5522. You can call or text that number. And again, then there's, for the not just the younger ones, but there's Facebook. They can always message the museum page. And obviously, them just come on down. See it for yourself. And I get that a lot. One of the younger guys will come in and they're thinking about bringing Grandpa down. And then I always tell them, get all the family down that you can, especially if they want to know what Grandpa did, because he'll start talking.
Yeah. And when I would go by on Central Avenue, in the summer especially, you'd see the mannequin out front in the store, or outside the store, and first time I looked at that, and I said, boy, you got a soldier out there, know. So that was an eye-catching thing, but I would just encourage people, and I take this as not a commercial thing. I'm not trying to promote commercial businesses. This is an honoring business of the vet.
For sure.
I'll open the floor to you, Tyler. Anything you want to?
Yeah, and I would close with what you said is, it's really the educational opportunity. We always, for generations, we've talked about, not just military, but we're losing we're always going to lose our older generations, but with them goes the story. And it's personally to me, because I had a great uncle that we spent a lot of time with, and even the elders in our family didn't know that he served and that he even served in Korea. And it just blew my mind when I found out that when he passed away, that he was in the military and he served in Korea. And even again, my aunts that are in their 60s, pushing 70s now didn't know. Mm-hmm. So and I don't know what he did. Nobody knows, and now that's gone. So again, it's that educational experience. It's honoring what they've done. It's remembering history so we don't repeat it. That's what it's about for us.
And you can add on to this, but I always say, don't just thank a vet on Veterans Day or the other holidays. Thank a vet every time you see them. A lot of them wear the hats with the branch of their service on. So please, people go up to them, shake their hand, and thank them for what they do.
Yeah, for sure.
You got anything else you want to tell the people? Otherwise, we'll move on. And this is an ongoing interview process where we keep interviewing vets, and I will have a recruiter on someday too. I've got people like Tyler and the other ones that I've interviewed that give me the knowledge and who to get, but I've got a list of people that I can do. So this is an ongoing thing, and just remember, this is to honor vets. And thank you for what you do and are going to do.
Yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate it as well, and I appreciate the reach out and taking the time to come to the museum and spend time with me there. So.
Yeah, we were there for a while. You couldn't get a thing done because we were talking. We solved everything. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Thank
Tyler.
you.